All right, I think this is done. And export. This used to be me, but then I learned about 10 tips that helped me know when my mixes were actually done, and it changed everything. Let's get started. Tip 1, check your mix in mono. Mono folds all the sounds in your track into the center, which is going to reveal anything that might be poking out. It'll also reveal if you have any buildup in any certain frequencies that you may not hear in stereo. All DAWs come with a utility plugin or a button right on the track that'll let you fold it into mono. Check it out. In Ableton, you're going to grab the utility plugin from Audio Effects and drag it onto your master bus. Let's listen to the track in stereo and then in mono to hear the difference. It's so much easier to hear the relative volume between different elements in the mix. Balancing those elements is a breeze in mono. You'll also be able to hear any masking issues in case there's a buildup of frequencies in a certain area. Remember, there are a ton of playback systems that are in mono. Bluetooth speakers, some clubs and bars, some grocery stores maybe. Hit that mono button and you'll get a different perspective on your mix. Tip 2, isolate the mid-range. I'm sure you've heard of these legendary speakers, the NS10s. They're known for not sounding great, but people love to mix with them. The reason is that they isolate the mid-range. The magic of any mix is in the mid-range. Think about it. You've got the presence of the vocals, the smack of the snare, the harshness of the guitars, and if you get the mid-range right, odds are that your bass frequencies and your high frequencies are gonna play nicely together. If you wanna get started with this tip right away, put an EQ on the master bus. Create one high-pass filter, one low-pass filter, and isolate the mid-range. I'm going to go from about 200 Hertz for the high pass and about 3K for the low pass. That brings us to tip 3. Check your mix on a different set of speakers. If you can't afford NS10s just yet, or an extra pair of studio monitors, grabbing a simple pair of computer speakers for like 20 bucks is a great way to get a different perspective on your mix. I'll never forget this time I showed my mix to a friend on their computer speakers. I couldn't believe my ears. I had such a long list of things that I needed to fix. But the mix turned out way better afterwards, so much so that I bought my own pair of computer speakers and apologized to my friend for continuously pausing the mix just so I could write things down. This brings us to a similar tip. Maybe tip 3B, check your mix on your phone or earbuds. Just think, my friend listens to music on their computer speakers, and so many people listen to music on their phone and earbuds. Most phone speakers are in mono, so there's a bonus there as well. You're gonna hear almost no low end, so you're really gonna be able to focus on what's going on in the mid-range and the high end. It's a great time to check for any harshness or distortion that you may not normally hear on studio monitors. Really quickly, if you're enjoying this video so far, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to our channel. Also, leave me a comment below on how you like to check your mix. Those 3 things really help us make more videos. Do you see how much I spat? Put that in slow motion. Sorry. Tip 5, use a reference track. This tip can be applied to all the tips I've listed so far. Pick a professionally mixed and mastered song that's close to the style of music that you produce and use it as a reference point when you're checking your mix. What does the reference track sound like on computer speakers compared to yours? What happens when you isolate the mid-range on the reference track and compare it? Hearing the differences is going to give you clues on where your arrangement and mix might be lacking. When you're using a mastered reference track, don't forget to turn it down to match the volume of your mix. Tip 6, use automated mastering. This next one is a popular one that you might not have heard of. Use automated mastering to preview what your mix is going to sound like when you get the final master. I often hear stuff poking out in my mixes that I wouldn't have normally heard. I make the change and then remaster it to hear the difference. It's such a great feedback tool that takes minutes and saves me tons of time. Tip 7, car test. First part of this trick is quickly getting the mix down to my phone so it's ready to play in the car. And bonus, the song will automatically be uploaded and mastered.
Use my phone.
Rude. I don't use Androids. You're always making group chats green. Hello? Shut up? Okay. With the Lander desktop app, I can bounce to a set folder and it'll automatically upload to Lander. Okay, so I've exported the mix. Let's get to the car. First thing you need to check before playing back your mix is the car's EQ. You'll want to set it to flat first. Next, I'll pull up the Lander app and listen to my unmastered mix first. It's sounding sounding pretty good. A lot of people tend to boost the bass in their car, so I'm going to dial in the car's EQ to reflect that. I listened to it again with the boosted bass, and it seems like it's getting a little bit muddy in the low mids. Now I'll check out the mastered version. Just as I suspected, Lander highlighted the bass synth, so I'll have to bring that down in my next mix pass. Tip 8, distanced listening. We do way too much focused listening when we're mixing, comparing, listening on different devices. One of the things that helped me most was letting go and looking at the bigger picture instead of trying to pick smaller elements out. There's a couple ways you can do this. First thing to try is to set a loop, hit play, and leave the room. Go into a different room and start doing something else. Your brain will be focused on what you're doing. But if you hear anything popping out, you'll notice it. Write down whatever it is and go back to what you're doing. Try the same thing in the room that your setup is in as well. Sit down with a notepad and listen to your track as a whole. Don't touch the computer though. Write down anything you're noticing and make a list of stuff to check out afterwards. Fix the stuff on the list and then rinse and repeat until there's nothing left on the list. This next tip is one that I noticed that a ton of producers don't do. Get professional feedback. No, don't post your mix on some forum to get devoured by bad advice. Find a professional you trust and get their opinion. They've been doing this a lot longer than you, so they're likely to hear things that you may not have noticed at first. Getting feedback and starting to notice what they're hearing and making those changes is how you'll improve. Tip 10. Take a break. When you're mixing, your ears are going to become fatigued, and any decisions you make might not reflect what you should actually be hearing. You'll never actually know when your mix is done. It's like eating that ginger in between sushi pieces. It's a palate refresh, so you could get that full flavor. A good rule of thumb is to take a 10-minute break for every hour that you're mixing, or a 20-minute break for every hour and a half. Your ears will thank you. Tip number outro. See ya! Subscribe!